Ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about Palantir and the opportunity that I am seeing in Palantir currently. Because recently we had this interview with Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, where he is expressing that Palantir will potentially do between $15 and $18 billion in free cash flow in as little as 2 years. Now, when he said this, that immediately perked my interest and I had to do some digging. So let's watch the clip really quick and then let's dig into what the Palantir opportunity could be.
We have much more demand than we can supply. That's like, and by the way, it may be somewhat, maybe the crazy person that still only cares about free cash flow, but we have more business than we can supply. And we have, look, if you just look at our financials, right, you can see like 2 years out, you can see $18 billion in free cash flow.
So are you frustrated by the stock's performance over the last?
You know what? I've been
year,
at this for 20 years. We've been at this talking this. When we first started talking, people were like, is this a services company? Is it worthless? The markets are short-term, very fickle, and also, quite frankly, where I would throw some shade, what investors actually understand tech? They think because they're very high IQ, and they understand certain things, they understand what they're using. Basically, the fault of investors is typically, I use it, therefore it's valuable. Yeah, what an enterprise uses, it's doing complicated manufacturing or pharmacological research or putting a bomb on or bringing special forces people home safely, very different than what you're using.
Do you think if you're a pharmaceutical company or you're the government, should you not be therefore using Anthropic or an OpenAI without your layer on top? I mean, would you say that's dangerous for them?
Look, first of all, honestly, the one thing that I am slightly frustrated about, when OpenAI or Anthropic especially are talking about critical infrastructure, it only is being used in our product, my product.
So there we have it, Alex Karp pretty much laying out that the market has no idea what the opportunity really is for Palantir. And he's right in that I have no idea what Palantir does, but I do know how to look at financial statements, and I do know how to listen to a CEO when he talks, and I do know how to put my conviction where their mouth is. So, Alex Karp, he said 15 to 18 billion free cash flow 2 years. That's the main thing that you got to pay attention to. And looking at the numbers here, we are looking at 2025, we did $4 billion. 2026, we should do about 7 billion in revenue. He is talking about 15 to 18 billion in free cash flow in 2 years. That's 2028. The market is expecting them to do 16 billion in revenue. So the market is clearly mispricing Palantir if Alex Karp is correct. Now, let's look at what the opportunity could be, assuming Alex Karp is correct. So if we do 15 billion, the first thing we have to ask ourselves is how many shares outstanding does Palantir have? And they have 2.4 billion shares outstanding. Now, when we zoom out 2 years, we have to account for the share change year over year, because these employees at Palantir are extremely intelligent and they're doing extremely high level work. So they get compensated for it pretty heavily. That means that the shares outstanding are increasing by about 3% every year because of stock-based compensation to pay these employees. So that's fine. So we're going to up this number of 2.4 billion and let's add in 3% and then 3% again. You're about 2.55 billion in shares in 2028. So now we're doing our math based on 2.55 billion. Now, 15 billion, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can either look at the market cap and then divide that to get the share price, or you can look at the 15 billion in free cash flow and divide that by the shares outstanding to get a free cash flow per share. So let's go that route. So if we have, this is my little estimator from Fast Graphs, and here's the stock price in the black line. Now, let's say we end 2028 and we're doing 15 billion in free cash flow. That would be 5.88 per share right there. So 5.88 per share in free cash flow. Now we have to decide what the multiple is. So here I have a couple option chains that I pulled up with different multiples. So let's look at these 3 for now. So if you think that Palantir can trade at 30 times free cash flow to that 5.88 number, then that would put the stock around $180 per share. So this call debit spread here, which is not financial advice, I'm not suggesting you do this trade. All these numbers can change. They will change when the market opens on Monday. But let's just look at this for fun, just to get a rough idea of the opportunity. So buying the 175 here and selling the 180 is roughly going to cost you $33 to place that trade. Now, the max profit would be $367. So you're going to turn $133 into the difference here, which is $5. So 500. So 133 turns into 500. So a little less than 5x on your money. Now, if you think Palantir can trade at 34 times the free cash flow of $5.88 per share, then you get a stock around $200 per share. And again, the same thing, you would buy this and you would sell this. So this again is if you believe they can trade at 34 times free cash flow. And important here is the dates. So I'm going all the way out because Alex Karp is suggesting 2 years, 2028, end of 2028. There's your 2-year mark. So this option is roughly trading around $93, and the max profit is $407. Now, of course, when the market opens, these numbers will change, but let's look at this for what it is now. So this opportunity is a 5x on your money. And of course, it's more aggressive than if you went to the 175, 180. But you can see that there's quite a jump between just expecting it to be over 180 versus expecting it to be over 200. You're going to get paid for it though, if it does hit. Now, let's move to the most craziest example, which is 50 times free cash flow. Which honestly is not that crazy, because when you look back here and you're looking at the free cash flow for Palantir, currently they are trading over 100 times free cash flow currently. And as you can see with this dotted line here, it has not traded below 100 times free cash flow for all of 2025, and right around 2026 we're about at 100 times free cash flow. Now, of course, this is because the company is early on in their growth stage. You have these crazy growth numbers, 75%, 80%, 100%. But the market thinks this is going to cool down faster than Alex Karp does. Alex Karp believes that they're going to be doing $15 billion in free cash flow. You need to understand that this company currently today, for 2026, is going to be doing, what is this? Around $3 billion in free cash flow. Sorry, $4 billion in free cash flow right there. So this is a massive growth opportunity that the CEO is suggesting will happen with Palantir. And if you believe him, if you trust him, you want to put some money behind him, then the stock will follow. Now, my thoughts here are I'm being very conservative when I'm suggesting it trades at a 30 times free cash flow or a 34 times free cash flow. So when I jump to 50 times free cash flow, it's really not that crazy considering these growth rates and considering that the stock doesn't even trade below 100 times free cash flow. So let's look at this opportunity. So here, if Palantir traded at 50 times free cash flow, and Alex Karp is correct in what he's saying, this option trade is buying the 280 and selling the 290. So that's a $10 spread, call debit spread, and this can cost about $100, $90, with a max profit around $900, $910. So this opportunity turns $90 into $1,000 because the spread is $10. So that is a 10x opportunity if you are betting that Palantir will trade above $290 on December 15th, 2028. This is a massive opportunity that I'm seeing in Palantir. When you go listen to Alex Karp, when you go look at what the analysts are expecting for the business to do, I mean, you have 17 analysts here that are only expecting them to do $16 billion in revenue. What I think will happen between now and 2028 for this to happen is you're going to have the analysts come out. They're going to re-rate all their numbers. They're going to re-rate the stock. They're going to say it's a buy. They're going to raise all their expectations for earnings, revenue, and you're going to see the earnings actually coming out and they're going to crush it and keep crushing it, because look at what Alex Karp is saying. He's telling you what he thinks is going to happen. So now technically the safest opportunity out of all these call debit spreads that I've shown here is you could essentially combine all three into this bet here. So what this one is saying is buying the 175 and selling the 290. So you're buying this one here, and then you're selling this one here. So this opportunity costs roughly $16.80 to place one option, and maxes out at $11,500 because the spread here is $11.5. This is called debit spreads. This is how these options work. So buying the 175, selling the 290, you have a max payout of $11,500. And currently, you can get into this opportunity for roughly $1,680. Now, the benefit to this option versus the other three I showed is that as the stock moves up right here, you will begin seeing the profit and you'll be able to close out the position. The drawdown to this strategy, though, is that each option costs much more significant amount of capital. So when you do one of these other option trades, let's say you do the 175, 180 trade and it's costing 133. Well, for 133, you could get 10 of these for the same price you're getting one contract here. And what's the benefit of getting 10 versus 1 is that as the stock does go up, this option is going to trade for higher and higher amounts of money. So it might be at 133 today, but let's say, over the next 6 months, the market starts realizing that Alex Karp is correct and the stock starts shooting up. And let's say it's at $200 already, 6 months from now. Then this option might trade around $260, $270. Okay. And the beauty of that is your 133, remember, if you got 10 of them, is now each trading for $270, $260. So you'll be able to trim out half of your position and get all of your cost basis back. And that allows the other 5 options to ride for free, because it's all about not losing your capital. You cannot lose capital. And that is the beauty of these call debit spreads when you have a smaller entry point per call debit spread, is you are able to trim out 1 contract, 2 contracts, 3 contracts. I had a similar situation happen with Marvell, where the stock, everybody knows the stock has shot up absolutely berserk in the last 30, 45 days. And I had 10 contracts on Marvell. I was able to trim out 3 contracts and get my entire cost basis for the 10 contracts. So now I have 7 contracts that are free and I get to let them ride. So that's the beauty of doing one of these 3 strategies here, where you have smaller entry prices, versus doing this strategy here. But this strategy here also does offer larger room for whatever the stock has to do, because as soon as the stock is over about $180, $185, you're instantly going to be making money. And it has a larger bang than does this one at 180, because you're thinking, hey John, you said 180, this one would cash out at 180. Correct, but the payout, the multiple, is a lot less than the multiple on this one. So there's pros and cons to everything. The universe is balanced. Everything's equal. So these are my thoughts on Palantir. These are some option trades that I'm looking at. None of this is financial advice. None of this is trading advice. I'm not suggesting you go buy these options. I'm not telling you what to do with your money or your portfolio. These are just things that I'm looking at and the opportunity that I'm seeing with Palantir. I hope you found this enjoyable. Check out feedmetrades.com if you want to track your call debit spreads. Let's say you place one of these trades, not telling you to place them, but you would be able to track it on feedmetrades.com, the website I created to help track all your call debit spreads, your put debit spreads, any option trades. You can track it on feedmetrades.com. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, and stay tuned for the next one. Peace.